Sis, leave it alone. If it does not apply to this current situation, rest it down. Hi, my name is Colleen Theophil, and this is Live a Life You Love, the podcast. I am an emotional intelligence coach, and this is where I help you go from simply surviving to thriving by teaching you how to manage your emotions and thoughts and using that newfound information to create momentum in your life. We are continuing our conversation on what is the problem, conflict resolution. And today we want to talk about effective communication. I am calling today Tough Talks. We sometimes, as I mentioned before, shy away from tough talks, but it is absolutely necessary. I like to say that communication is the bridge between conflict and the actual resolution. You have to be able to communicate. We cannot continue with patterns where we ignore things and sweep it under the rug, expect it to go back to normal, and consider that as conflict resolution. No, I don't want anything to eat. That's not a form of conflict resolution. Granted, you could still buy me the food. But my point is, we can't keep doing these avoiding techniques for things that need clear, open communication. So today we want to talk about what effective communication in conflict needs to look like so that you get the result of reconciliation or maybe separation if necessary. The point is we want it resolved, and so this is how we are going to go about effectively communicating to ensure that we reach our end goal. And so, very simple. Remember that the main objective in communication is to actually get to the core of the problem. Remember the first episode that we did where we're getting to the root of it. This is what is going to sometimes help you get to that root, and this is also what is going to help you create a new habit, create a new environment. So, let's talk about the leading things that you need to have a tough talk. The first thing is active listening. So the problem I have with people when they say they're a great listener is the fact that people do listening wrong. They really do. Have you ever met somebody who listens only to respond and not really to understand? One of the tenets of active listening is that you have to be able to give that person enough room to explore their thoughts so that you are listening to actually understand what they're saying versus responding. What does that really look like in a conversation? You can't be cutting people off halfway through. Allow them to finish their sentence, to complete their thought. Because what you might notice is if you had allowed them to complete their thought, they would actually have revealed what it is they wanted to say and would have brought clarity. I was telling a client this week, if you have a problem with interjecting or cutting somebody off mid sentence, one of the very simple techniques that you could do is actually count to five slowly when a person is talking. By the time you finish with count to five, that person will have gotten out the main point, and then you can organically now insert whatever it is that you need to see. And so, with active listening, first thing I want you to remember is that you have to listen to understand and not simply respond. Not all cases are cases where you need to defend yourself. It is not war. You do not always need to try to prove your point. You remember the key is resolution. And sometimes that resolution is being able to step outside of yourself and say, you know what? I'm going to have to push pause to wanting to defend myself, hear the full story, and see if that is even necessary in this case. And so listen to understand, not simply to respond. So the next thing on the active listening is seek to really understand the meaning and the intention of what this person is saying. One of the things I have learned over the years, especially being in a relationship, is that sometimes when going into conflict resolution and communicating, we have to keep in mind the person we're actually communicating with and ask yourself, based on what this person is saying, does it match their heart? You have to remember sometimes with conflict resolution, emotions are high, emotions are flaring. And sometimes people might talk what may seem out of character. It's not out of character, it's out of emotion, and the two are not the same. So sometimes we have to apply grace to people to realize, you know what? What's the heart behind what is going on right now? Is this person expressing to me their heart? What is it that they're trying to convey? What's the intention? Are they being intentionally hurtful? And many times people are not. And so when you're listening, make sure in the back of your mind you're keeping into the forefront of your mind what is this person trying to say, what is their intention, and what do they want to mean. And then as well as under active listening is seek to remove the distractions as much as possible. It is disrespectful, guys, to be in the middle of trying to resolve a situation and you're on your phone. So you're not making eye contact. The person's body language is, your body language is off in relation to that person. You're not making eye contact. You're grunting, and that person could tell that you are not serious about even hearing them out. Remove the distractions. If you are in a space where you're resolving a conflict, put your phone down. Switch off the TV. Give the person the respect that they need and the undivided attention they need. The reason why this is so important is if in that phase of resolving a conflict and you do something like allow a distraction to distract you, you now sow in other elements like mistrust. You sow in elements of this person not feeling safe with you, which aggravates the conflict even more than bringing you to a resolve. You don't want to walk away from a conflict and a person now mistrusts you even more than when they started. So remove the distractions. Another trick that is really important in active listening is learn to rephrase what the person is saying so that you know what they actually are saying. So, what I could look like, somebody says something to me, your response should be, okay, tell me if I have this correct. And you rephrase what they are saying. And then you simplify by saying, am I right by saying this is what you meant? That shows that you're paying attention and that you're paying attention with the intention of understanding. And of course, if you are having this discourse, a good way as well to show that you're listening is not just paraphrasing, but also asking questions. Guys, we have to get into the habit of asking questions. You don't know the answer, do not assume. You don't know the answer, do not assume. Ask a question. It is not going to take much out of you to simply say, listen, I don't understand. Can you help me to better understand what you mean? Ask as much questions until you fully understand. It doesn't matter if you think you look stupid doing it. That's perfectly fine. Your main objective is to come to a resolution. So this is active listening. So under active listening, we talk about listen to not respond, listen to understand. Paraphrase where it's necessary. Get rid of the distractions. Ask as many questions as you need to ask in order to understand, and listen with the intention of understanding that person's meaning and intent. And so this is active listening. The second thing that helps us in effective communication and helping have tough talks is actually something that is reverse to active listening, and this is active responding. You remember you were a good person just now by sitting and listening to everything this person has to say. So now there's this space where you should be able to respond to what is being said to you. I think that is only fair. Now, in responding, there's also an art in responding. Because after you just took all this time to listen, you don't want to fly off your handle and just start to word vomit at this person. There's a way in which your response needs to look so that we can help in solving the situation, right? And so the first thing in active listening is be very clear with what you want to communicate. I've seen instances where people jumble their words. They start to bring things back from 10 years ago that don't make any difference. What that have to do with the situation? So be very clear to communicate what is actually important in that moment, in the situation. Don't just address things because your emotions are heightened. This is specifically for people in relationships. Sis, leave it alone. If it does not apply to this current situation, rest it down. So make sure you're not replying simply because your emotions are heightened. Here's one of the things that I have to do when I know my emotions are flaring and there's a resolution as necessary and I have to have a tough talk, I write down my thoughts. I allow the paper to get the brunt of everything I have to say. And then I read over and I realize, okay, this is irrelevant to the conversation. If I mention this, this is going to cause some dread hurt. This is this. And so then when I take all of those out, I see the heart of the problem and then I'm able to communicate that. So be very clear in your response, what you actually want to communicate. Then the second thing is watch your tone and body language. You know, we like to say, watch how you're talking to me. No, you watch how you're talking to people. Like, we have to be mindful of the fact that you could be saying something, but your body language and your tone is sending a completely different message. You And in the Caribbean here, we are so good at it. Sarcasm is a second language to us here. Like we drip sarcasm. And so if you are trying to resolve something, sarcasm can't be a part of your tonnage. You want to fix something, sarcasm is what is make people dive across table for people. You can't use sarcasm. So watch your tone when you're talking to people, when you are addressing people. Don't let your body language contradict your words. You see that fold in your hand? If you don't know, that's also a sign of wanting to protect yourself. The person is already aware that you are not open to the conversation, and so they immediately begin to switch off. And so be clear, watch your tone and body language. And then the last thing under active responding is always start with the end in mind. How do you want this interaction to end? If it is that you want the result to be peace, then you know you have to have a conversation and use words that's going to lead to peace. You can't want peace and say, well, I think you real stupid. You're not looking for peace. You're mad. You want drama. If I want peace out of a situation, my tone, my attitude, my body language, everything is going to give off that energy. I'm not saying you don't be assertive, but there's a difference from aggression and assertiveness, and know the difference. So what did we talk about today with having tough talks and being an effective communicator? Two simple things. Be an active listener. What does that look like? Communicate clearly in terms of remove the distractions. That's a way of communicating, making sure you're listening, not to respond, but to understand. Be mindful of cutting people off mid-sentence. And then the second thing is active responding. Clearly communicate your message. Don't allow your emotion to control you. Remember, emotions are simply information. They are not guides or decision makers. Watch your tone and always start with the end in mind. So I hope that this is very useful to you. The next time that a conflict arises, remember these things when you know you have to have that tough talk. Of course, if you've been tuning in to Live a Life You Love and you have not shown us the love of subscribing, now is the time to do that and share this information with somebody you know who could use the help. I'm Kelly Theophil, and this has been Live a Life You Love.